Welcome to TeamCast 3. People are dying and the world is shutting down. It's a time of unprecedented change and adjustment for all of us. This impact has had and will continue to have a profound effect on the way that we lead our organisations, businesses and teams. My name is Mhairi Richardson and I'm a coach within the Upper Gear coaching community. As a community, we wanted to be able to share some of our expertise with the business world to give guidance and support during these unprecedented times of change and turmoil. I'm joined today by two of our most experienced coaches, both of whom work internationally with numerous clients around the world. We will be discussing their thoughts on the key areas leaders should be focusing on within their teams. Firstly, I'm joined by Jerry Brown, the Managing Partner of Upper Gear LLP and MD of Maximum Performance International. Jerry has over 25 years experience in executive coaching, and for the last 15 years, he has been training, accrediting and supporting numerous top team coaches. Welcome, Jerry.
Hi, Mhairi.
And secondly, we have Dave Buffum, MD of Aligned Business Coaching Limited, who has over 40 years of leading and supporting teams towards high performance. Dave's area of specialism are change leadership and team behavioural dynamics. It's great to have you here, Dave.
Hi, Mhairi. Nice to see you.
So, Jerry, do you want to kick us off with what for you is the number one priority for leading teams during these chaotic times?
Yes, thanks very much, Mhairi. Thanks for the introduction. And hi, Dave. Good to see you.
Hi,
we were talking over the last few days around what would be the five most important aspects of leading in this particular situation, which is, let's face it, unique in our lifetimes. And we came up with the first one, which we thought was most important of all. And anyone who's looking after a business right now or leading a business right now, it's very discombobulating. Let's use a word like that. We probably should be using a much more extreme word, but I think that one is probably appropriate. And in that context, it's vital that anyone who's leading a team is able to be clear about their vision and their purpose. And I mean that in the short term, in this particular stressful context, which is affecting everybody and their businesses. It can really knock you off your stroke, and you're facing situations that you've never faced before, which can throw you out of kilter. So we're all having to leave our offices and go and work at home, and people aren't necessarily used to that. So the critical aspect for the leadership teams and the leader is to pull together about what is our purpose from the point of view of what are we able to do in this short term. So clarity of vision and clarity of purpose is a really important exercise to carry out. In amongst that, you might need to readdress what your business model is and how you are able to operate and do business against the tide of everybody actually looking inward and trying to resolve their own issues within the client companies you might be trying to trade with or serve. And in doing so, in the analysis, be brutally truthful with each other within the team. The sweet truth is always so important to identify, through which you can then actually find out a way forward. We use a model within the Upper Gear methodology called Demands, Constraints and Choices, which was taken from a book by Mhairi Stewart some time ago. Nonetheless, always relevant and even more relevant now. What are the demands on your business to survive? What are your demands on your business to actually create new revenue streams, come up with new ideas and ways of working, which you're being forced to identify? And within the constraints of the current situation, you have to acknowledge what the current situation is and what you can and can't do. And innovation, creativity, agility, flexibility, all these words which we bandy around in workshops and conferences that organizations should be employing at any time, but it's never more important than it is right now. Agility, flexibility to change your business model within the constraints you're working with. And then obviously, in the end, the choices that you have, and begin to identify them quickly and act upon them. So I would say, if you can employ those factors, then you begin the journey towards success within the constraints that we're working in.
Absolutely. And I think the need to be honest and transparent is essential in times of crisis. And Dave, what about mental health and resilience?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just picking up from where Jerry's got to. I think maintaining a positive psychological state within your organisation is absolutely critical at the moment. It's very, very easy for us to get stuck in the stress and the strain and the emotion that we're going through at the moment, and then for that to dictate the way that we lead, and to give us take us into this sort of transactional and distant and leading from panic, leading from uncertainty, stress situations. And at a time when our people are experiencing that in, through media and through all sorts of, every other way, their lives have changed. Their work lives have changed, their family lives have changed. And we can either sort of add to that stress and strain as a leader, or we can actually give them some clarity, give them some certainty, we can give them some positivity and stability that goes along with that. So we should never underestimate the position that we've got as leaders and the way that we can really positively impact on people's lives at this point in time. Now, of course, we don't have to be absolutely certain about everything in order to do that. There's lots of things that we don't know at the moment, and the situation's changing massively. But what are the things practically that we can do? Increase the contact that we have with people. If we're used to them drifting past our desk every day, or catching up over a coffee, or seeing them in the lobby, or whatever it is our contact points are, then actually we need to find new contact points in the current context. So are you just having those transactional Zoom meetings or Teams meetings or WebExes where you're talking about the doing of the doing, the work that takes place? Or are you actually having let's have a Zoom lunch together, let's talk about actually how's life for you, what's the battle with bandwidth, how are you dealing with the kids' homework, all of those sort of elements that humanize where we are, stabilize where we are, and keep those sort of social connections going. So really, really critical to do that. Daily one-to-one check-ins, all of that sort of stuff is essential and really, really easy to drop, really easy to lose it. Knowing your people, really knowing your people, and flexing your approach and recognizing where they might be. You might find in the first couple of weeks of lockdown, introverts have suddenly, yay, this is fantastic. We're in the space of, I don't have to have all these distractions. I can work in my own little zone, and away I go. And yeah, that may well be the case, but introverts actually over time you can feel like you don't need to give them anything because they're very self-sufficient and they're all operating in that way, but suddenly they're drifting away from what you need to be doing as an organization. So keeping close and keeping them in check can be key. Your extroverts might be climbing up the wall. Yeah, they might be like, hey, I've lost all this social contact. I've lost all this stimulus. It's the same all the time here. And actually, I need those extra check-ins. I need that extra context. I just need to be able to voice stuff. So, really, really key. Knowing your people, responding to that, absolutely critical.
Can I just add one thing, Dave?
Yeah, go for it.
Just to build on what you're saying, I think that also people as you say, experience this context differently. Some people actually find it fascinating. Some people find it terrifying. So as leaders, we need to perhaps exercise more patience and tolerance with people who are at different places in the response that they're having to it.
Yeah. Jerry, I completely agree with you. And, we're on a change curve, aren't we? We're on a rapid change curve at this moment in time. And we're on multiple change curves because there's there's different things every day that are going to affect where we are. And you're right, some people are going to race ahead. They're going to be, hey, this is great. This is fantastic. I'm Zooming everybody. I've got, all of these sort of things going on all of the time. It's fantastic. We've just sort of moved our social life online, and hey, away we go. And there are other people who are going to be in the place. How do I? I don't know. This suddenly is over formalized. It's made it clunky, and I can't do this anymore. So knowing where people are on the change curve, I think, is really, really critical. Yeah, know where they are, recognize where they are. And when we experience unusual behavior from people, we have to notice it. We have to notice it as leaders, and we have to respond to that. People don't become idiots overnight. We have to recognize where they are. If there's a pattern of behavior coming out, let's, get curious and explore that. I think something else is that, where people get stuck on the change curve, where they get, either resistant of it, I can't cope with what's going on at the moment, or actually I'm lost here, I just can't find a way of being productive in here. And quite often this catastrophic thinking comes through. So we have to work with them to really understand and unpick what is it that's holding them back, and how can we help them move forward. And then I think just some simple things, really, be tolerant and don't sweat the small stuff. Really, really important. We're connecting in different ways, and the merge between our home lives and our work lives has never been more sort of interlinked in this way. So you're going to get kids and cats that are creeping in on WebExes and videos and important meetings, and you're going to get people whose bandwidth suddenly dies because everybody in the neighborhood started streaming movies. Those things are going to happen. We just have to be a bit tolerant and say, hey, okay, that's fine. Those things happen. None of them are showstoppers, but the way as leaders we respond to that could be, if we don't respond positively.
Absolutely. I mean, I also think, tailoring your approach to the individuals in the team is key, but also making sure that they internally within the team, they keep up their contact levels. It's not all leader down. It's making sure that you understand they do need to keep in touch with each other. So how would you suggest that leaders try and restore balance and order to the team in working life? Jerry?
Thanks, Mhairi. Well, building on what Dave just said, I think, we talk about creating order from chaos, because it certainly feels like that as we have, all of us, moved from what was our normality into the current situation with the pandemic, having to abandon our offices, work from home, battle with all of the different factors that interfere with our ability to work or communicate, i.e. children being sent home from school and families all being trapped together in houses. All the things Dave's just listed can seriously disrupt our ability to concentrate or work in a normal way. Our work itself has been disturbed, so that's changing too. Some of the opportunities that we had before have been taken away, and I use those words carefully. We haven't lost them, they've been taken away, which is sometimes a little bit more dramatic to experience and actually try and deal with. So as leaders of teams, we've got to try and quickly work with our colleagues and help to try and restore some order in the chaos, or create new ways of structuring order. And routine is important in anybody's life. We do like to live lives with options and variable things that we're involved in. Variety was the word I was looking for. But we right now probably need routine more than ever before. So the leadership teams and teams together to collaborate on, well, how do we form that new rhythm and routine? How often do we need to meet? How often do we need to have check-in phone calls, the things that Dave's talked about earlier in the section around trying to maintain positive psychology. All of that gives people some form of comfort, a platform on which to then begin to build their new routine and way of working, and the routine of the whole team. And the communication within that, you know, there'll be a lot of trial and error involved. There's nothing wrong with that. We've talked about the enthusiasm and the fun of trying new different ways of communicating using Zoom and WebEx and Microsoft Teams and Fuse and God knows what else is available. And that's great fun. And after a while, though, you know, you can often experience it's another Zoom call. The dog's going to be barking again. And, you know, what's the protocol of who butts in when, because we're talking over each other more clumsily perhaps than ever before, because we're not all sitting around a table. And our sense of connection with human beings in close proximity is broken. So, you know, the way that you communicate, the structure from formal agendas, very important to keep the business running, rebuild the agenda to meet the needs of the business in the new business model and context, but also to have those informal check-ins, as Dave described, just to say how you're feeling. And you wouldn't perhaps normally do that in the old world. But in the current world, I'll say this is the sort of interim state while we battle our way through this pandemic. We do need to try new things, and we do need to be sensitive to people's feelings, where they are on the transition curve, change curve that Dave talked about a moment ago. You know, we have good days and bad days. And I'll admit it myself, you know, it depends on what's perhaps happening to you on that day, what's happening to the rest of the team. It can affect you if you are sensitive to that, and I certainly am. You know, as to the energy that you have to work, you know, so when someone gets in touch to say how you doing, that can mean a lot, and help somebody get through and get to a better state in which they can be more able to work and use their energy in a working way. So what am I saying in summary from my point of view? Think about the plan, think about the method, think about the order that you can bring out of chaos. Try different things, but build a routine and be prepared to flex it as time goes by, because the routines that we've developed in the last 2 weeks, and I'm talking right here and now, may have already become a bit stale. And actually, you need to evolve them again and adapt to the responses that you get from your team and check in with them. How's it feeling? What would you prefer? What would work better? Is it faster? Does it need to be perhaps a little bit more on the feeling side? Or actually, we're starting to want to get working, so let's be a bit more tactical and get on with some actions and things that make you feel better. Because when you're delivering positive things and getting results for the business, however small, that feels better. Progress feels good.
That's fantastic. I mean, I also think it's important to remember that the sort of spark of creativity quite often comes from those joint conversations. And that's
Exactly.
why, you know, we absolutely have to keep maintaining those, but remember that it isn't always a group of 15 or 10, you know, sometimes it's just mini groups of 3, and to use that format.
And it doesn't have to always be everybody in on everything. You know, you can actually form those small working teams, and they will evolve. So yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a real danger where we don't get that routine in place, that actually productivity can can fall off, and we can start letting ourselves off with the excuse that, well, it's sort of difficult because we're in a period of change, and it's all sort of happening in that way. And actually, the quicker we adjust, the quicker that we find those new routines and new ways of working for individuals and teams, then the quicker that we can capitalize on the productivity that we can gain from that, and the advantages we gain from it. Fundamentally, if we've got people who are traditionally sort of traveling around the country all the time from meeting to meeting, they're saving all that traveling time at this moment in time, which is good for work-life balance, but also good for preparation. You've got both customers and clients and all the people we're interacting with are now sort of, this is the new norm in terms of the way that we interact. So you can create expectations of being able to, whether it's sell in these situations or influence people or have better quality meetings because of the imperative that's been created.
And if you are in a situation where you are dramatically having to transform your business model or method of operation, it's not the natural response is to rush into finding the solution. And quite often I've been very well supported by my colleagues who've kind of gone, whoa, just wait a minute, let's just think about this and don't rush into it. Let's just try and get it right. Let's think it through, the sharpening the saw scenario, get it right, think it through, work up the model to a point where you've really looked at it from every angle, and then all your preparations done properly, and then go into it with everybody prepared and ready. And so you avoid the panic response, the knee-jerk response. And that will help people feel more comfortable that they're doing the right thing.
It also goes back to your first point, Jerry, about agility and understanding that, the first 2 weeks is really about making sure everyone's got the right equipment, the right microphone, you can hear them, they make sure that the radio's not on in the background, etc., etc. And, that distracts massively from the business planning elements. But once you've got over those things, then, you're into a new regime and adjusting for that new regime. So,
just a quick point, again, building on what Dave was saying right at the beginning about, you get to know each other better. You begin to sort of meet people's family pets that jump into the picture. And, kids put their heads around the screen like this and say hello. And you know what? It can actually work to your advantage and bring you closer. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, that leads very nicely into my next question, which is, how do you think the current environment will change the look and shape and feel of leadership in the future? Dave, perhaps you could answer that.
Well, I think I think we've got we've got a future now that is going to be accelerated on a number of levels, really. And with some of the things that we've previously had attitudes around, like we don't do remote working in this organization. Flexible working, what's that? That doesn't work for us. We can't conduct our meetings via Skype, WebEx, Zoom. We couldn't function as a business in that way. And all those belief systems that people have had before have just been blown away, because actually if they carried those belief systems through at the moment, then they will not be functioning. And they ultimately, won't be surviving coming out of the end of it. So suddenly we've been on this massive learning curve. We've learned a number of these things, and actually we discard them at our peril because they create the new norms for us. So some of the, our ability now, as well as responding to where we are at this moment in time, as well as making sure that we've got our teams engaged and we're improving the way that we can collaborate in this sort of remote working way. We're now moving into the space that says, as leaders, we've got to have a really strong view on, or developing view on, what are the trends that are emerging out of here that are going to be with us on the other side? Yeah. So how do we, approach remote working and flexible working? And do you know what? At the moment, if I was a leader that was just about to sign off on a new office block or a extended lease on somewhere, I might be thinking a little differently. Yeah, I might just be thinking, I wonder whether we could save that money. I wonder whether we could do something just a little bit differently. I wonder whether, actually, despite all the work that we've done, we've put into that at the moment, whether there is a different way of doing this. And I believe the leaders who are going to start to see those emerging trends and start responding to them now and adjust some of their thinking in flow are going to be the ones who are really going to capitalize out of this. So, we will, what are the other things, the other emerging trends? Concern about health and proximity to each other. Yeah. Business is built on handshakes. We're probably not going to be doing that for a while. Although elbow bumps do seem to feel a little bit weird still, but hey. Generosity and altruism that's coming out, some of the volunteering that's happening at the moment, some of the, just the overall, I'm part of a bigger community that's happening both at individual and at macro company levels is just hugely inspiring at the moment, and I wonder what the halo effect of that will be moving forward. Attitudes towards risk, will they change? Yeah. Are we back into some of the things that we learned out of 2008 and the financial crash in terms of, do we need to keep a bit more cash in the bank? Do we need to, what is it? What are the things that, in terms of our attitudes towards risk, and, what does that mean? Long-term, the longer-term economic uncertainty that will come out of the world shutting down for whatever length of time that we've got at the moment, or partially shutting down. What does that mean? So this local and community versus macro and global, what does that mean? What does that mean for organizations? Does that mean that we'll turn, instead of saying, hey, yeah, we want to dominate the world, actually, no, there are people down the road that we're not transacting with at the moment that we need to. And it sort of connects into, we're all getting a bit of joy about a visibly cleaner and healthier environment at the moment. So what does that mean for us? Does that mean if I'm a supermarket in the UK that I'm looking at lamb prices and thinking I need to fly stuff from New Zealand at the moment? Or does it mean that actually, do you know what? I'm going to take a slight hit on margin here and I'm going to buy from down the road because, hey, I reckon my customers have just shifted a gear on this. All of those things we need to have a view on, and it's very, very easy for us not to, because it's easy for us to stay in the stress and the strains of the here and the now. It's the leaders who are, deal with the things that need to be dealt with on a day-to-day at the moment, but are having a view as to where we're going in the future. They're going to be the ones that are able to create the new vision and the new inspiration for their organizations as they come out of this.
Jerry, is there anything you'd like to add to what the new world may look like?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit more to the idea of a culture of generosity. I agree with Dave entirely. We're seeing the human race at its best in everyone acknowledging the great work of the NHS, for example, people clapping on their doorsteps at 8 o'clock at night, people sending messages to each other saying, are you okay? We're sort of just taking a step back from the commercial pressure that we're under in a normal scenario. And I think that's wonderful. If we take that forward into the way that teams operate, that are leading organizations, that generosity should be encouraged within the team and organizational structure. High-performing teams are those that will support each other to succeed. It's not all about just me doing my bit. I want to make sure everybody else in the team succeeds, and I'll do what it takes to help them and support them. So if we go back over some of the points made in this podcast, mutual support, collaboration, and sensitivity, empathy to your colleagues to make sure everybody wins in this situation and we support each other. That's a few of the major ingredients of a high-performing team. And I think this generosity that we're displaying now will carry forward and actually enable us to work more effectively and be more successful in the future. So I'm fascinated to see how we come out of it and the differences in the working models. But a lot of the things that we're doing during this period can stand us in good stead to be agile, flexible, and ready to move into the new world that we're going to emerge into and succeed in the economic. Let's hope it's an upturn. We all need one of those when we come through. I believe there will be one, and let's be ready to make the most of it. So that would be what I would want to say.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think there is real potential for the current situation to improve leadership norms, and to encourage more shared ownership and collaboration. And who knows, maybe the leadership of teams, the team as the leader, will start coming to the fore more and more. That's been absolutely fantastic, guys. Thank you for sharing your incredible depth of knowledge and for your input here, to support the leaders of the world leading their teams through this crisis. I hope everybody has enjoyed the discussion, and if you want to see more detail on your 5 essentials for leading your team through the COVID-19 crisis, catch up with us on LinkedIn or at www.uppergear.com. Please do get in touch with us to tap into the vast experience of a community of accredited team performance coaches. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Mhairi.
Bye, everyone.